That folks got us a 2009 Chevrolet. It's a Silverado. It's got the big 5.3. I'm assuming it doesn't run. I got dragged here from another shop. They were thinking it needs an ignition switch and to be programmed, apparently. So I don't really know the story on it, if it quit on the fella or if it just, you shut off and now it doesn't start. So it sounds like if it quit, they wouldn't be, diagnosing an ignition switch. And indeed it does nothing. I mean, dash lights up and everything. You turn the key, nothing happens. So before we dive right in and just throw an ignition switch and a programming in it, let's look and see what's wrong with it. And then if that's it, then we'll fix it. I suppose it could be ignition switch, but oh man, hang on. Whoa, this guy's too fat. Here we go. We're in. All right, so key is on. 108 on the clock. She's in park. Hear a little clicking under the hood like a relay or something. Of course, we always try it neutral. Nothing. Appears to have bright headlights and everything. And when we go to crank it, one headlight goes out. Oh, I see, the high beam circuit turns off. Okay. So yeah, I mean, nothing, no real anomalies in here. So, I mean, for all I know, it could just have a bad starter. I think one thing I did notice, oh, let me turn the headlights back off. One thing I do notice, I don't see a check engine light, right? We should have a check engine light, shouldn't we? I don't hear any throttle actuation. Alright, so that's kind of interesting. Before we even put it up in the air, let's throw a computer on it and to see if we have comms with the engine computer. I don't want to get too deep down the sidetrack rabbit hole. Whoa, baby! Oh, Ken and Nancy there. Yeah, I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole of, checking things prior to just picking up and checking the starter. But it looks relatively clean under here. 09, you're always a little suspect. But let's just throw a computer on it real quick. So she's over here scanning. It looks like the ECM is talking, so that's good. Maybe the engine light just doesn't come on with the key check, or perhaps I missed it, or maybe the bulb's missing. I don't know. Hard to say, but well, that's still scanning. I'm going to start throwing a lift under it because I think we're barking up the wrong tree there. Before we take the ride up on the lift, let's just check one thing, because like I say, they made the call on the ignition switch, but let's just see if it is bad. I went into power moding in the body control module, and we should be able to see our current status. So this is off, key in, accessory, run, crank. So it appears that we have everything we need, and it appears that the ignition switch is not bad. That's one of the nice things about GM and their power moding. They've kept that the same pretty well forever. So let's get a diagram for our starter. Let's make sure we don't have any blown fuse or anything, funny business here under the hood, and then we'll pick it up and just do a quick check. All right, if all is right in the world, fuse number 62 is what it says. That is our starter fuse, or that's the fuse that's on the control side. Well, you turn the key on, the computer says start. It turns the relay on, the relay sends power through this fuse and then down to the starter. So that's where we're at. Just kind of summarize that. That's all we need to know. If this fuse doesn't light up, then we'll do something different. Fuse 62. 62, where are you? Gosh, let me get my freaking glasses. This getting old business ain't no fun. 62. Oh, it says big honker right here. Well, let's see if I can get a hold of these JK's fuses. Oftentimes can be not friendly. That's one that's okay. The fuse is not blown. Let's take and pop the lid off it here. Well, usually, let me get a little pick there. Well, might be able to use just a T-pin. Usually you just push on the corner of the lid here and they'll pop right off. There we go. We'll set that down. So there's our fuse. It looks good. We'll very gingerly set that back in its socket for right now. We will grab our test light. Find the ground. We have a good ground. We've got power. We'll very gingerly set that on that fuse. I'm gonna go crank it, and that should light up if everything's working. Let's see. Is it not lighting up? I can't see. Make sure we set it. Break the fuse, but I definitely want to make sure I got contact. There we go. Let me try this again. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Toledo. What we got, boys? Good thing we went there instead of picking the car up, huh? I half expected that to light up. So let's verify a couple things. A, make sure the blind guy's looking at the right fuse. Fuse number 62 right next to the AC relay, 62 down here, starter, 40 amp it says. And that was a 40 amp. Let me make sure that jives with the wire diagram. We can send a little power to it. Yeah. Yeah, he says. Yeah, we should be on the right wire. I guess, oh, I see, it's because there's no nut on there. We'll clip it on there like that, watch this. Let me make sure it's in park so we don't make some kind of stupid move here, which we should be. Oh, scared me. We are in park. It should crank over when I touch this. It sure does. But it doesn't run, but she cranks. So that's interesting. So now we know something. Now we know we need to keep going backwards. And the fact that it didn't run right there leads me to believe it's something more than a bad starter relay. Maybe it does have a bad ignition switch, who knows? This guy doesn't. I don't think it does. Where is our starter relay? Oh, it's right next, it's this one right here. One with the greasy fingerprints on it. Okay. Let's get our you activate and see if that thing's not activating and see what we're missing there, if anything. What's up, Miss O?
Just
good.
Good.
Smells like dill in here, girl.
It's good, huh?
Yeah, this is pretty strong. Wow. We just gotta get a wiring diagram. Come see what you're doing.
Hopefully it turns out okay.
What are you making?
Potato salad.
Dill potato salad? That's pretty strong.
Yeah, I like dill, dude.
I like dill, yeah.
Hopefully. There's a lot of
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too.
So now that this is getting more interesting, we'll break out the diagram. So let's get everybody up to speed where we just did. We just checked this fuse right here, this 40 ampere. Like I say, that's on the load side of this relay coming out. That supposedly gets its power from something over here, 175 amp mega goes into there. That's interesting. That's an awful lot of power feeding that little guy. And then it comes down to the actual starter solenoid, you know, the low current side here. So there must be more, you know, obviously they're not feeding 175 amps just into this alone, but and they said that's on the firewall. Okay, so it must be this fella right here. Oh, because that goes over and feeds that whole box, that's why. It's interesting, they had something hooked to it at some point, because there's a wire there. One must probably go to the alternator, things like that. So yeah, that 175 amp mega fuse, that must just feed the, probably that whole smart junction, or that whole junction box. So anyhow, let's see what we're missing on the relay. So we're gonna need our diagram. We're going to use the AES Wave U Activate relay tester. Allows us to do some testing outside of the box. Now this is a relatively new tool to me. And that was our relay, correct? Let's see, this is, make sure that's in its neutral position. Uh-oh, you can't use this one, that's a 5-prong. Let me see if it's got a 4-prong adapter in the kit. And it does. This should allow us to do all of our testing outside the box here. Key's still on. We should be able to crank it from here. And we can. So that's good. And then let me get my glasses and our diagram here. So someday, don't laugh at me folks, someday. And then we're gonna grab our test light. So, as usual, 30, pin 30 should be our full-time power. I think this thing has LEDs on it, typically light up. LED test, right? Yeah, so pin 30. That should be our power from our mega fuse, shouldn't it? Should. How did it crank if it didn't have power though? That's what I want to know. Because 30 and 87. That's kind of bizarro that it would crank, but why is this not lighting up? It lights up when I click it that way. Huh. So on here, can this plug in 2 different ways? Probably shouldn't matter, but it does. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so this can plug in 2 different ways because they had power on 87 prior. So we have power on 30, which is correct. When the relay activates, we should have power on 87. And you can see that we do. So we have power on 30. When the relay turns on, 87 becomes active. So what we need to see now is 85 and 86. Now those two can be inverted. But in this case, according to the diagram, 85 is our ground side. And then 86 is our power side. So let's just see if when I hit the key, if 86 lights up. Hopefully that's making contact in there. Let me turn the key, I'm gonna crank it here. Okay, so either I have crap connection. I'm gonna pull this more towards me where you guys can't see. I wanna make sure I have a good connection is all. Test light's not the best thing to use with this box here. Okay, so we have no control. So that means 85, I'm assuming, has a ground, or it should have, unless we have 2 problems. But it appears that we have no control side of this relay. Okay, so we should have, so I'm hooked to a power source. So let's see if 85 is grounded, and it is. And I'll crank it to make sure we don't lose our ground, which we shouldn't. Okay, and we don't. Okay, so we've narrowed this down. Let me give you guys a rundown as to what we're missing, and that is the starter relay control wire right from the engine computer. Let me show you. I'll give you guys a skinny. This wire is good. We have power going into the relay. We know we have power that can go through it and come out into the starter, so that wire is good. That wire is good. This ground is good. We checked that at pin 85. Isn't that what that says? 85. Yep. But 86, this control wire, which is supposed to have power from the engine computer, starter relay control, that we don't have. So there's some reason that the starter or the ECM is either inhibiting cranking, or the wire's broken, or the computer's bad, or Mrs. O needs to see us. What's up, Mrs. O? You need us?
Somebody needs
I'll be right there. So what I think the best next step is here, get a pointing apparatus. We were in the body module and we could see the power moding there. I'm assuming if we go into live data here, we should find, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know which heading it's under, maybe electrical and theft. We should be able to find crank request. Oh, there we go. I was going to say crank request. Starter relay command. That's all we really need to know. Oh, look at this. Ignition voltage 0. Does this thing really need a freaking ignition switch? That's hilarious. Just because power moding showed it functioning. Maybe I'm the idiot here. Ignition start requested. RVS disabled. So that's remote vehicle start. So this is interesting, huh? Oops, no, we don't want to exit. Let's just... I don't feel like a real ding-dong if I didn't just do what the other shop asked me to. Let's see. Crank request signal, yes. So it's receiving the signal, but it's not commanding it. However, look at that ignition 1 signal. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. I can eat crow when I have to. Let me do a little more poking here through some data. So I'm thinking that this is something important to focus on. This ignition 1 signal. Obviously it's receiving the crank request, but it's not turning the relay on. So that's why we don't have, you know, that control side, that power side that's turned on. So let me see where this ignition 1 signal comes from, or where that voltage comes from, and then we'll take it from there. So I found this a little interesting. I went into the bidirectional controls, and believe it or not, it actually had the starter relay bidirectional control, which I didn't know that. Of course, it's not something I normally would look for. And then I go to turn it on, and it says battery voltage exceeds limits. So I turned off my battery maintainer because, you know, it's sitting at 13 volts, thinking, well, maybe, but even at 12.6, it still didn't like it. However, I'm wondering if, you know, it's the other end of the limits. I meant to make little quotation marks in my hands because, you know, our ignition 1 signal. So enough fussing, okay? And people are questioning why I'm not worried about theft deterrent. And that's because on a GM, it doesn't kill the starter, it kills fuel. So that's why I'm not worried about anti-theft. All right, so we have ignition 1 here, pin 19, pink wire. Where that goes? That goes to number 1. Oh, and then we have another IG1 here, pink and black, and that goes to 15. So let's see. All right, so number 1 here, pink, that goes up to fuse 56. Let's write that. Well, we can write it down, or we can just go check it. We'll just check it over right here. Let's move our test light here. Fuse 56. It's in this bottom corner. Oh, look at that. Hot? Not hot. Ooh. Oh boy. We've got a blown fuse. But why did it blow? Huh? See, this is why you should go through the fuse box and check every single fuse every single time. I'm just kidding, folks. This is why you follow reasonable logical deduction here. Now, I just did a fuse box in a car the other day, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to save all them fuses. But I don't know if it had any regular fuses in it. When it did, look at that, 15 amp right there. You think she's gonna blow right away? Let's see. Hey, I hear the throttle body now that I didn't hear before. Okay. Man, we didn't have to push this thing in, did we? Let's fire it up. Should start now. Okay, look at that, we got check engine light again. Whoa, Chevy Thunder! This thing's sick. Oh boy, now we got a whole different set of problems, people. Whole different set of problems. So you're asking yourself, well, what could be the problem, Mr. O? Well, the problem is that fuse is blown. First of all, good question. But now we have a lot of suspects. We've got the wire that goes from the ECM all the way across here That could be a problem. The ECM could be a problem, or wherever else this thing feeds, which is the fuel system control module. What blows my mind is that there was no codes in the fuel pump control module or the ECM for missing voltage on ignition 1 circuit. So that's kind of bizarre. And the fuel pump control module, as you know, lives at the back of the vehicle. This sucks. A lot of wire between here and there. And it sounded like it had some dual fart cans on it. Let's see. Oh yeah, don't trip over those babies. Ow, freaking shin. So I'm wondering, usually when those things are put on, everybody likes to kind of cut and hack and whack where the harness runs. Well, something blew the fuse, that's the problem. We let this thing go, so you're gonna come back and haunt you. All we can do is do the best we can to see if we can figure out what shorted. Of course, the fuel pump control module on these things is always, you know, a big green pus sack typically. Okay, let's throw a amp clamp on it, and we'll go visual inspection and do some wiggle and see if we can't find a hitch and skiddy up, I guess. I used this in a previous video, and a lot of folks mentioned that they went on to AES Wave's website and couldn't find this, and that's because it's not there. You gotta know a guy. No, what you need to do is you need to get a hold of them and get put on a waiting list. AES Wave's a great company, so be sure to check them out. I think there's links in my description for AES Wave, or you can call them up and tell them that, you know, you would like to have a U-Activate, and they can give you the skinny on it, as far as what the, the terms are as far as weighting and stuff. So pretty handy little tool for running tests on your relays outside of the box. When you're calling about that, make sure you buy yourself an AES Wave U test kit, because these things are phenomenal. This is probably one of my favorite bits of kit. Of course, I've added a lot of stuff to it, but by itself, it's a great kit. And what we're going to use out of that kit right now is this jumper. I don't think that one, right? Nope, that's for the little guys. Nope, that's for the big guys. Must be I mixed some up in my other bag here. Yes, ma'am, I sure did. This is the one I need right here. Doesn't really matter. I got all different configurations. So we're going to put our 15 amp fuse in our little loop here. Then we'll stick that back in the fuse box. Okay. We probably should have a circuit breaker in there, being we're going looking for a short, but worst case scenario, we blow a fuse. And then I'm going to stick the current clamp on here, run that down over the side of the vehicle. We'll do a little visual under the hood, but I would be more suspicious of the problem being at the rear, simply because it's a salt belt. These vehicles have a tendency, like I say, with aftermarket exhaust, I've seen them, you know, break leaf springs and rub on harnesses and all kinds of weird stuff. So we're going to take a look and see if we see anything. And if we don't see anything obvious in the harness, any rub spot, I mean, there's not much we can do. We'll unplug the fuel pump control module, see if that thing's growing. Typically, corrosion doesn't blow fuses. It creates, you know, opens, high resistance, low current, low resistance, high current. Okay, so we're usually looking for a short more than we are corrosion. Rub through something like that. We'll get the old Vantage fired up here. I like using the Vantage because it has a big screen on it. Allows us to share a little better on the World Wide Web. We're going to plug in our our AES Wave 07-60 low amp probe. Well, that's a pretty good advertisement for them folks, huh? They do make great stuff, so no complaints on my end. We're going to go to graphing meter and then low amps. In this way here, we can see on a graph if we, you know, if we touch it in the right spot. Zero that baby out. Always put it on wrong first. And this thing's hardly drawing any current right now. It's like 16 milliamps, so almost nothing. I'm gonna change our scale. We'll go to the 500 milliamp scale, so yeah, 13.8. And that number is really irrelevant to us at this point. What we're looking for is if we touch it in the bad spot, we're just looking for a spike. Hello, what's up? So that's it. Yeah, let's get after it. Let me get it up in the air. So we got this here. She's holding steady. And the first thing you always gotta do with these Chevys, make sure they ain't gonna break in half on you. These freaking frames on these trucks rot out super fast. This one doesn't look super sketch. You know, you can see the box is starting to collapse up there, so you know those are areas where you could be a little suspect. It's like where the box starts caving in down around the body. You know, we just kind of want to do some visual inspection and see how that shock mount's ripped right off up there. Okay, I bet you that's where we're gonna find our problem. Cause see, is this one still attached? Yeah, that one's still attached, but the truck's pretty well junk. And you can see the harness ripped away there, but where that shock is ripped right off the body, it's probably got the wiring harness cut. Will be my guess, because that's where that's gonna go, is back here to, there's our fuel pump control module. Okay. Oh, do you need me there, Miss O?
Well, do you want to talk to?
No, I don't want to talk to anybody.
About the Nissan?
Use code words.
I think he said Nissan Pathfinder. So you're supposed to talk to.
Okay. So we don't want to jump to conclusions assuming that is the problem, but it's definitely a problem, right? Looks like shock's been beating around back there for a little bit. Because remember, folks, that wire runs from the fuse box, down to the ECM up front, which looked all pretty good. But our main concern was where it runs all the way through this harness here, along the outside of the frame and down and around, and up there above everything. So let's just look in the obvious spot. Let's try to pull this shock down out of the way. I know it's not a great viewing angle for you guys, but I really need to see more than you do, even though that's what you're paying for. But the price is right, so you might not be able to see. Customer might be like, why doesn't my truck run? Because your shock's bad. That's what I'll tell them. I just want to see if I can see up in there. But if I ain't got a frig with it, then I ain't gonna. Yeah, it looks like she might have chowdered that harness a little. The problem is, I don't know what the problem is. I probably should stick a stand underneath it. That way, because the shock's really the only thing holding this rear end up. Obviously the leaf springs are, but I guess we could unbolt it at the bottom perhaps. I mean, the truck's garbage at this point, so it doesn't really matter, but we'll figure it out here. Yeah, we better get a stand. I can't remember how much they go down with just spring. It clearly has some tension on it. Whew, scared me a little. Set that down. Let's see if it's broke off all the way. It's broke off all the way. Chevy Thunder! And it looks like it might have got the harness here a little bit. Alright, I've got my mirror cleaned off a little bit. I peeled that back so we can see, and I don't know if this will focus on the mirror. And hits. Let's see, hopefully it's focusing, but there's a pink wire, white, a green, and a pink in there. And I can't tell if that's focusing or not. That's definitely not. But hopefully you can see on that pink wire where it rubbed through. Okay. And that's, I believe the wire color we were after was pink. And that would be the ignition 1 feed back to the fuel pump control module. And I'm not even gonna bother fixing it on this truck, because this truck's gonna be on its way to the junkyard. And that's a pink wire because that's our fuse. So we identified the problem, we identified the short. However, it's time for this Chevrolet to get recycled. Unless somebody wants to mess with that, which I won't. But somebody might want to, but yeah, you have to cut the spare tire out. Like I say, the box is starting to collapse down around the sides of it, and I'm sure the shackles and everything are probably ready to rot right through. Oh yeah, they're getting close. She's almost done. Ready to stick a fork in this one. If he does decide to take it somewhere and have it fixed, then they can fix the wiring. Because like I say, all that has to come out of there anyways if somebody's going to try to weld the cross member, but good chance. If we grab the poking hammer, you could poke right through that thing anyway, so. Yeah, all right, we'll throw the shock in the back, call the guy and let him know that it's not the ignition switch. Let's go see how Mrs. O's making out here. How'd it turn out, old girl?
You gonna try it?
I don't want to try it right now. I've got wax in my mouth.
No.
Because of my situation I've got going on. We figured this truck out. It does not need an ignition switch. No. You know why it wouldn't start? Bad shock. Got a bad shock absorber on it. What? Oh, the truck rotted out. The shock fell off and rubbed a hole through the harness. But technically, right? That's what I'm going to title this video. Bad shock absorber makes Chevy truck not start. That'll get all the Chevy freaks going on it.
Click.
Yep, clickbait. And then, well, I won't even tell you when we use that on thumbnail. All right.
Dill potato salad?
Dill potato salad with your face.
Oh,
this
nice.
Is a little dill potato salad and a bad shock. Look at this Chevy. You guys think I'm full of Chevy hate. I got a confession to make, okay? This 2006 Chevrolet with the big 5.3. It's mine. It's a short box. It's a regular cab. And it's mint. Except for the headliner. Mrs. O's fixing that. Got the interior tore out. I bought it for my oldest son. We redid the inside because it's a Southern truck. She came from South Carolina. So naturally the headliner was falling down. Windshields broke. And it was a smoker's truck, so the inside was completely disgusting. But I went to Wilbur's U-Pole the bath, got all the interior parts and pieces. We got the carpet, it's mint. But let me tell you what, boys, this thing is like brand spanking new underneath. For an 06, look at that frame, huh? Oh yeah. Read them a weep, Chevy Thunder right here. I've got different tires. I found all the hubcaps, but she's pretty cool. Got a Line X liner in it. Got the windshield put in it. Got all the aftermarket wiring ripped out of it and everything all fixed. She's pretty nice. Seats are just in there with one bolt right now because the windshield guy wanted something to sit on. So as soon as Mrs. O fixes our headliner, which that material just showed up today, we'll put that back together. I got all the plastic stuff from the junkyard. That was in good shape, no broken tabs. Got everything we need to put her back together, all mint. And even got a Chevy head to her. Like I say, the headliner was crap, but she got some new headliner material. The backing on it's still really good, so we can just we'll put a new headliner on it, and that's it. And like I say, I found all the hubcaps. Got the new plastic for the tailgate because that was broken. Got the new tailgate handle on it. Got different tail light, front lights, and all that. So yeah, these Southern trucks, that's the way to go. But unfortunately, the their interiors look like our frames, but we got good interiors here, so this was the easy fix. Piece of cake, and it'll make a good truck for my kid. So before you guys think I'm a total anti-Chevy guy, I'm not, because really deep in my heart, I'm a Chevy guy. I'm not a big new body style Chevy guy. The 07 Classic, I think, was probably the best truck that GM made. They had it pretty well perfected around then, except for some of the issues they had with the cylinder heads. But I think that this body style, the 04, 5, 6, and 07 Classic, I think is probably some of the best trucks GM ever made. You know, besides square body, America. I don't know if that's a symbol for America, you know what I mean? So anyhow, I'm a Chevy guy deep in my heart. And it's for a kid, so he's gonna need access to cheap parts. And Wilbur's U-Pole the Bath has tons of these trucks, so, and they're everywhere around here, a dime a dozen. So that's why we went that route. But this guy here, I don't know. I'm not willing to do anything. I'm not going to try to bubble gum a shock back on. I mean, the thing's just toilet paper and Swiss cheese in the back part of the frame like they usually are. So I'll let him decide. I'm not even going to bother patching up the wiring because clearly, you know, the shock needs to be reattached to the vehicle prior to anything else. And whoever's going to fix that, yeah, I imagine they're going to cut the cross member out or do something. They can fix the wiring at that point. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And that's that. And I don't want you to leave me here thinking why you're not in that comment section, leaving me a comment, the question, the concern. Find me on the Insta, the Facebook. You guys know what to do. Just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.